Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan Nelson here, and I just rode through the sprinklers. Woo! So that was awesome, especially when carrying a camera that is not technically mine. What's going on? Like I said, we're out here, we're testing out the new Canon R6 camera. I've had this thing for about a month now. I've been testing it out in different situations that work for, you know, me. I know, I already know a lot of you are gonna criticize some of the ways that I am testing this camera, and you're like, oh, well, you didn't test this, or you didn't say this. Like, okay, to be fair, that's not how I use this camera, so I'm probably not gonna mention that because it doesn't apply to me. It may apply to you, it doesn't apply to me, or the way I test this camera or use these cameras. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyway, I am on my way over to do a test with the IBIS on this camera, the stabilization. I don't know if you remember, a few months back, I tested out the Sigma 24-70 and the Canon 24-70, kind of see which lens worked better, and I did a stabilization test on that. This is not a comparison versus the R6 and the R. That's a separate video, so watch that too. I'll link that up there when that's done. So I'm heading out to do that same test again with this camera, using the IBIS and the digital image stabilizer, both in the camera. The stabilization on the lens is, it doesn't exist on this particular lens, so that's off. We're almost there. We're gonna do that test, and let's get to it. Let's start this test. After that, back to the studio, take a look at it, and show you what else I got. All right, let's go. All right, before I get too far into this, I do have links down below in the description for this Canon R6 camera. I am an affiliate for B&H, so if you do purchase through that link, I do get a commission, just to be totally transparent with you. So this stabilization test, let's take a look at it. Now, there were a lot of little jittery movements in here. This is minimized if you shoot it at 4K 60, and you can slow that down. I'm shooting at 24 frames per second, so I can slow that down a little bit, smooth out those little jittery motions. That does help a lot, but overall, shooting real time, it's not that much better than my previous testing on other cameras. There is a section towards the end where I was able to get, you know, a little bit more of a smooth shot there, but overall, it was still pretty shaky. Can't say I was super impressed with the stabilization on that. That being said, I have used this in other circumstances where the stabilization has helped out quite a bit, shooting some B-roll shots, shooting some photos that are, you know, maybe a little bit beyond what I should be shooting handheld. The in-body stabilization has helped quite a bit. You know, it's good, but it does have its limits. Shooting externally, I know I'm diving right into this, but I just want to get this out of the way. So I had an issue the first time I tried to record externally to the Ninja 5. It just kept disconnecting. It kept disconnecting. And my goal here was I'm recording to the R right now with the Ninja 5, that's just my setup. So right next to it, here, let me show you. Right next to it, I have set up the R6. Guess what is not disconnecting at all? No single issue. It's been recording this whole time, no issue. So I don't know what was going on there. When I very first tested it, just to make sure everything worked, I had the right cables, it worked. The next day I went out and shot a job with it, it disconnected, so immediately I packed it away. Came home, I tested it, it still kept disconnecting. It kept disconnecting, I don't know why. The brand new cables, I switched out a new cable, the external monitor kept disconnecting. And now that I want to show this to you, of course, it works perfectly fine. IAF is a lot better on the R6 than it has been in the past. So I have noticed shooting this, the autofocus is a lot better, the face detection is a lot better, the eye detection is a lot better. Even in the recording in the beginning of this video, going in and out of the shadow, the sun, everything here, it's kept that focus right on my eye or right on my face. Again, locks onto sunglasses, that's a huge plus. I love it. Internal C-Log 10-bit. That is actually awesome. I have been using the R6 more as a B-roll camera on some shoots I've done over the past month, shooting in 4K 60 with the IBIS and the digital stabilization on, I've gotten some really nice B-roll shots. It's been really great for that. It's awesome to have that quality, being able to have that bigger flexibility in editing with a lower profile camera versus having an external recorder on top to get the 10-bit recording, 10-bit internal. Big plus in my book. The only downside to it is you can't record all iframes. It's all IPB. That is some very scientific jargon, which let me explain that to you real quick. Okay, so to oversimplify IPB versus all iframes, say I'm riding my one wheel across the frame. I'm moving fast. This is where this is really gonna make a difference, is when you're shooting fast moving objects. So I'm coming across frame, I'm moving fast. All iframes, every single frame, that's gonna be the actual recording of me coming across this frame. So let's talk about if we get into IPB or long GOP frames. So IPB refers to the different frame types. Iframes, you can think of those as photos. And that's roughly every 12 to 15 frames is the actual image of what's happening. The frames in between those frames are gonna be called P frames or predicted frames. So these P frames try to record only the movement in this image, mainly me riding across on the one wheel. And then we also have B frames, so IPB. The B frames make up the portion of the image that does not move between the iframes, like the grass. Now where this can get funky is on the edges of where the motion is happening. So I'm gonna get over here to one of these giant waterfalls we have here in Phoenix and kind of show you the difference and see what the difference is between an all iframe and a IPB frame. So let's go over there and check that out. So looking at this example, I think Canon has done an amazing job with their IPB on this camera. I'm actually even going frame by frame, I can barely tell the difference between the all I and the IPB on these two cameras. They've done a really good job with it. I have noticed it more on less expensive cameras. You really get some funkiness in water or just fast moving objects when shooting IPB versus all I. So just something to keep in mind. Again, I think the IPB on the R6, they've done a really good job with it. Now, one other thing you may have heard about the R6 is it has a mode called HDR PQ. So on the R6, I wanted to compare shooting C-Log versus shooting HDR PQ. Let's take a look at those examples right here. So here we have the C-Log video clip. It's ungraded C-Log, and then we'll slide over here and we have our ungraded HDR PQ. Immediately, huge difference. You can tell it's a lot darker. And then if you look at the sky is pretty flat. The surprising thing about these is you can get them graded really close. So here's the graded C-Log, graded HDR PQ. Now they're very, very similar, subtle differences there. The sky in the C-Log looks much better. You've got a little bit of gradient, you've got a little bit of color. Then we move on to the HDR PQ. The sky is a little bit more flat. I think the colors overall are a little bit flatter. The contrast may be a tiny bit better, but overall I like the C-Log image better. So let's move on to the next comparison. This was at 3200 ISO. Again, in these comparisons here, you can see a nice gradient in the sky. You can see some blue, goes maybe a little blown out on the right side of the image. We'll come over here and that sky is definitely flatter than the C-Log image. Ungraded. Then let's turn on the graded colors for that. So we've got C-Log graded, HDR PQ graded. And overall, I think the HDR PQ is a little bit flatter of an image. The sky just it looks like that kind of, I accidentally blew out the sky and I tried to bring it back in post-production, that weird grayish, whitish. When would I use HDR PQ? Personally, I don't know when I would use it. I like shooting the Canon log better, even though they can be graded pretty close. I do like the way the highlights are coming out in the C-Log image a lot better than the HDR PQ. I don't know, maybe I would need to do more testing with this, see what exact situation this might be better in. But just based on this test right here, I would personally just stick with C-Log. Maybe I'll do some more testing with the HDR PQ when I eventually get an R6 or an R5 and see what situation I would shoot HDR PQ in. But for now, C-Log. It's gonna be C-Log for me. So at this point, you're like, why should I buy this camera? Well, there are many reasons I can see to buy this camera. Why would I buy it personally? I'm just gonna answer for me at this point. Why would I buy it? If I'm shooting more run and gun stuff, I need that IBIS. I want that extra bit of stabilization. If I want to do some more street photography and I want to do like low light street photography, I'm not a wedding photographer. I don't really do events. I mean, sometimes I do, it's not my jam. So if I did a lot more of that, yeah, I would buy this camera, the R6. I would buy the R6. What other reasons would push me to buy this camera? Full frame 4K, some of the projects that I do, I work in like smaller spaces, slot canyons, really tighter spaces like that. It'd be nice to have that extra little width versus the 4K crop on the R, but overall I like the crop on the R. Gotta stop talking about the R. This is not about the R, this is about the R6. Yeah, if you want the full frame 4K, be nice to have, it's not a necessity for me. What else? The better face detection would be nice. If I started vlogging more with my bigger camera, yeah, I would probably buy that because the autofocus, the eye face detection with sunglasses is better. All right, so that's my thoughts, take it or leave it, on the R6. I hope you guys found this informative, helpful, useful, anything. Ask me questions. I do have to send this camera back, so I won't have it to physically touch and answer questions for you, but if you have questions, I may be able to answer them. So drop that down in the comments. If you like this video, do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button down there, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you guys next time.